Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. Maybe you've been there. You're sitting at the dinner table with your family, enjoying what should be a peaceful evening, and suddenly someone says something that just doesn't sit right. Or maybe it's not even what they say. It's how they treat you. You feel dismissed, overlooked, or maybe even talked down to. And if you're like me, you might find yourself wondering, is this really how my family sees me now? It's tough, isn't it? Especially when you've spent years building relationships, giving your love, and doing everything you could to support them. But here's the thing. As we get older, our roles in the family can shift, sometimes without us even realizing it. And while most of the time those shifts are natural and okay, there are moments when they don't feel fair. Maybe you've noticed it too. Your opinions being brushed aside, your boundaries ignored, or even your presence taken for granted. It's easy to let it slide, thinking, oh, they don't mean anything by it. But deep down, it stings. And over time, that sting can turn into frustration, resentment, or even sadness. The truth is, no matter how old we are, we all deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, especially by the people who are closest to us. And I'm not just talking about big, dramatic moments. I'm talking about the little things, the everyday interactions that shape how we feel about ourselves and our place in the family. The good news is, you don't have to sit back and accept unfair treatment. There are ways to stand up for yourself without causing conflict or making things worse. In fact, sometimes all it takes is saying the right thing at the right time to regain that sense of balance and respect. In this video, we're going to talk about 6 simple phrases you can use when you feel like your family isn't treating you fairly. These aren't confrontational or aggressive. They're thoughtful, calm, and designed to help you communicate your feelings in a way that commands respect. Because, let's face it, you've earned it. You've lived through decades of experiences, challenges, and triumphs, and your voice matters. So, let's dive in and start with the first phrase. The first thing you can say when you feel disrespected is, I'd appreciate it if you spoke to me differently. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't that a little direct? But hear me out. This phrase works because it's clear and specific without being accusatory. Let me give you an example. Imagine your adult child is telling you how to handle your finances, and their tone comes across as condescending. Instead of snapping back or letting it slide, you can simply say, I'd appreciate it if you spoke to me differently. What you're doing here is setting a boundary in a calm, respectful way. You're not attacking them. You're just letting them know how their words are affecting you. More often than not, this kind of response will make them pause and rethink how they're speaking to you. And here's the beautiful part. When you speak up like this, you're not just standing up for yourself. You're also teaching your family how to treat you. Over time, they'll start to realize that you expect and deserve a certain level of respect. It's not about control or power. It's about mutual understanding and fairness. And trust me, once you start using this phrase, you'll notice a difference. Not just in how others treat you, but also in how you feel about yourself. There's something incredibly empowering about knowing you have the tools to handle these situations with grace and confidence. Now let's move on to the second phrase. This one is perfect for those moments when you feel like your boundaries are being crossed. Have you ever had someone drop by unannounced expecting you to drop everything to accommodate them? Or maybe they assume you'll always be available to babysit or help out without considering your own schedule or needs. When this happens, it's easy to feel resentful, but instead of bottling it up, try saying, I need you to check with me first. This phrase is simple yet powerful. It communicates that your time and energy are valuable and that you expect to be consulted before any plans are made involving you. Let me share a quick story. A friend of mine, Margaret, used to struggle with her daughter-in-law constantly showing up at her house without calling ahead. Margaret would feel obligated to entertain her, even when she was tired or had other plans. Finally, she decided to say, I need you to check with me first. At first, she was nervous about how her daughter-in-law would react, but to her surprise, she responded with understanding from that point on. Visits were scheduled and Margaret felt more in control of her time. It wasn't about shutting her daughter-in-law out. It was about creating a healthier dynamic where both parties felt respected. Using a phrase like this doesn't mean you're being selfish or difficult. On the contrary, it shows that you value your relationships enough to set clear expectations. When you do, everyone benefits. Your family learns to respect boundaries and you feel less stressed and more appreciated. It's a win-win. Now that we've covered the first 2 phrases, let's move on to the next one. This one is particularly helpful when your opinions are dismissed or overlooked. Imagine sharing your thoughts during a family discussion, and someone interrupts or changes the subject without acknowledging what you said. Frustrating, isn't it? Here's what you can say in this situation. I'd like to finish what I was saying. This phrase is gentle yet firm, reminding others that your voice matters. It gives you the opportunity to express yourself fully, without feeling steamrolled. Think about how often we let moments like these pass because we don't want to cause a fuss. Over time, those interruptions can chip away at your confidence. By speaking up and saying, I'd like to finish what I was saying, you're reclaiming your space in the conversation and reminding your family that your thoughts and ideas are worth listening to. Isn't that exactly what you deserve? So far, we've talked about 3 phrases. I'd appreciate it if you spoke to me differently. I need you to check with me first. And I'd like to finish what I was saying. Each phrase is designed to help navigate tricky moments when you feel treated unfairly. There are still a few more powerful phrases to cover that focus on taking ownership of your feelings and helping others understand how their actions affect you. Let's keep going and explore those together. Now, let's talk about a phrase that can be a real game changer when it comes to expressing your feelings without sounding accusatory. This one is especially helpful in those moments when someone's actions or words leave you feeling hurt or disrespected, but you're not sure how to address it without causing tension. The phrase is simple yet incredibly effective. When you do insert behavior, I feel insert emotion. Let me break it down for you. Instead of saying something like, you're always so rude to me, which can come across as blaming and put the other person on the defensive, you can say, when you interrupt me while I'm speaking, I feel dismissed. See the difference? You're focusing on the specific behavior and how it makes you feel, rather than attacking the person. This approach opens up a dialogue instead of shutting it down. It gives the other person a chance to reflect on their actions and understand the impact they're having on you. I remember a story from my own life that really highlights the power of this phrase. A few years ago, I noticed that one of my grandchildren would often make jokes at my expense during family gatherings. At first, I laughed it off, thinking, oh, it's just harmless teasing. But over time, it started to wear on me. I felt like I was being treated more like a punchline than a person. One day, I decided to pull him aside and said, when you make jokes about me in front of everyone, I feel embarrassed and hurt. To his credit, he looked genuinely surprised. He had no idea that his jokes were affecting me that way. From that point on, he made a conscious effort to be more mindful, and our relationship became stronger because of it. Using this phrase doesn't mean you're being overly sensitive or dramatic. It means you're taking responsibility for your emotions while also giving the other person the opportunity to grow. It's a mature and respectful way to handle conflict, and it works wonders in family dynamics. After all, families are built on love and mutual respect, and sometimes all it takes is a little clarity to bring everyone back into alignment. Now, let's move on to the next phrase, which is perfect for those times when you feel like your needs are being overlooked. Maybe you've asked for help with something, but no one seems to follow through. Or perhaps you've expressed a preference or request and it gets ignored. When this happens, it's easy to feel invisible or unimportant. But instead of letting frustration build up inside, try saying, I need you to take this seriously. This phrase is direct without being harsh, and it sends a clear message that what you're asking for matters. Let me give you an example. Say you've asked your adult children to help you set up a new phone or tablet, but every time you bring it up, they brush it off or promise to do it later. Eventually, you start to feel like your request isn't being prioritized. In that situation, you can say, I need you to take this seriously. By framing it this way, you're emphasizing the importance of your needs without resorting to guilt trips or ultimatums. I'll never forget a conversation I had with a viewer named Sarah, who shared how she used this exact phrase with her son. She had been trying to get him to help her organize her important documents, but he kept putting it off, saying he was too busy. Finally, she sat him down and said, I need you to take this seriously. These documents are important, and I need your help to make sure everything is in order. Her son realized how much it meant to her, and he made it a priority to get it done. Not only did it solve the immediate issue, but it also strengthened their bond because she felt heard and supported. The beauty of this phrase lies in its simplicity. It cuts through the excuses and distractions and reminds others that your needs deserve attention. And when you communicate in this way, you're not just advocating for yourself, you're also fostering a sense of accountability within your family. Over time, they'll learn that when you say something is important, it truly is. All right? Now we're going to shift gears slightly and talk about a phrase that can help you reclaim your autonomy and remind others that you're still capable and independent. As we age, there's sometimes an unspoken assumption from younger family members that we need more help than we actually do. While their intentions may be good, it can sometimes feel like they're treating us as though we're fragile or incapable. If you've ever found yourself in this position, here's a phrase you can use. I've got this, but thank you for offering. This one is particularly powerful because it strikes the perfect balance between gratitude and assertiveness. Let's say your daughter insists on carrying your groceries for you, even though you're perfectly capable of doing it yourself. Instead of letting it slide or feeling annoyed, you can smile and say, I've got this, but thank you for offering. You're acknowledging her kindness while also asserting your independence. It's a gentle way of setting boundaries without making anyone feel bad. I recently heard from a gentleman named George who shared how this phrase helped him navigate a tricky situation with his son. His son had started coming over every weekend to mow the lawn, assuming his dad couldn't handle it anymore. While George appreciated the gesture, he missed the satisfaction of doing it himself. So one Saturday, he handed his son the mower and said, I've got this, but thank you for offering. His son was a little taken aback at first, but he quickly understood where his dad was coming from. From then on, they worked together on the yard work, which turned into a fun bonding activity for both of them. Using this phrase allows you to maintain your dignity while also showing appreciation for the care and concern your family shows you. It's a reminder that you're still very much in charge of your life, even if you occasionally need a helping hand. And honestly, isn't that exactly how it should be? We've covered some powerful phrases so far. When you do insert behavior, I feel insert emotion. I need you to take this seriously. And I've got this, but thank you for offering. Each one gives you a tool to navigate those challenging moments when you feel like you're not being treated fairly. But we're not done yet. There's one more phrase I want to share with you, and I think you'll find it particularly useful for those situations where you feel like you're being pushed into a decision or action you're not comfortable with. Let's keep going and explore that together. Now let's talk about a phrase that can be your secret weapon when you feel like you're being pressured into something you don't want to do. Maybe it's a family member insisting you move in with them because it's safer, or they're pushing you to sell your home, give up a hobby, or make some other big change that doesn't align with what you want for your life. It's easy to feel cornered in these situations, as though you're being forced to choose between standing your ground and keeping the peace. But here's a way to handle it with grace and firmness. I need time to think about that. This phrase is brilliant because it buys you space to reflect without committing to anything right away. It's polite but non-negotiable, and it gives you the breathing room you need to process your feelings and decide what's best for you. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine your adult children are urging you to downsize your home, saying it will be easier for you to manage. While their intentions might be good, the thought of leaving the house you've lived in for decades feels overwhelming. Instead of snapping back or reluctantly agreeing just to end the conversation, you can simply say, I need time to think about that. What you're doing here is taking control of the situation in a calm and respectful way. You're signaling that this is an important decision, one that deserves careful thought. And you're not going to rush into it just to please someone else. More often than not, people will respect your request for time, especially if they care about you. And during that time, you can weigh your options, talk to trusted friends, or even seek advice from professionals if needed. The key is that you get to make the final call, not anyone else. A woman named Clara once shared her experience with me, and it perfectly illustrates the power of this phrase. Her family was pressuring her to stop driving after a minor fender bender, claiming it wasn't safe anymore. At first, she felt torn. She didn't want to put herself or others at risk, but giving up her car would mean losing a huge part of her independence. Instead of making a rash decision, she told them, I need time to think about that. Over the next few weeks, she consulted with her doctor, took a refresher driving course, and even installed some safety features in her car. In the end, she decided to continue driving, but with certain precautions in place. Her family respected her decision because they saw how seriously she had considered their concerns. By using this phrase, Clara was able to maintain both her autonomy and her relationships. Now, let's wrap things up with one final phrase, a powerful reminder that you have the right to prioritize your own well-being. This one is especially useful in situations where you feel guilty for putting yourself first. Maybe you've been asked to babysit your grandkids for the third weekend in a row, or perhaps someone expects you to host yet another holiday gathering despite your fatigue. When you find yourself in these moments, remember this simple but impactful phrase, I'm going to do what's best for me. At first glance, this might sound selfish, but I assure you it's not. It's about self-respect and recognizing that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. For instance, imagine your daughter calls and asks you to watch her kids again, even though you're still recovering from a recent surgery. Instead of feeling obligated to say yes, you can gently respond, I'm going to do what's best for me right now. You're not rejecting her outright. You're simply stating that your health and well-being come first. Most people will understand, especially if you explain your reasoning in a kind and honest way. I'll never forget a letter I received from a viewer named Helen. She wrote about how she used this phrase to set boundaries with her busy family. For years, she had felt like a revolving door for favors, cooking meals, running errands, and hosting events, all while neglecting her own needs. One day, she hit her breaking point and told her family, I'm going to do what's best for me. To her surprise, they didn't push back. Instead, they started pitching in more and finding ways to lighten her load. Helen realized that by standing up for herself, she wasn't just helping herself, she was teaching her family how to better support her. Using this phrase is a way of honoring yourself and all the wisdom and resilience you've gained over the years. It's a reminder that you've earned the right to live life on your terms, and no one, not even your loved ones, should take that away from you. So, let's recap what we've covered today. We talked about 6 phrases that can help you command respect and navigate difficult family dynamics with confidence. I'd appreciate it if you spoke to me differently for addressing disrespectful tones. I need you to check with me first for setting boundaries around your time. I'd like to finish what I was saying for ensuring your voice is heard. When you do insert behavior, I feel insert emotion for expressing how someone's actions affect you. I need time to think about that, for buying yourself space to make thoughtful decisions. And finally, I'm going to do what's best for me, for prioritizing your own well-being. Each of these phrases is designed to empower you to advocate for yourself in a calm, respectful way. They're not about confrontation, they're about communication. Because at the end of the day, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, understanding, and clear boundaries. And you deserve nothing less. If any of these scenarios or phrases resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. I read every single one, and I know other viewers would benefit from hearing your story too. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel Wise and Well. We're here to provide practical advice and encouragement to help you live your best life at any age. Before we go, I want to leave you with this. Standing up for yourself isn't about being difficult or demanding. It's about valuing yourself enough to speak your truth. You've spent a lifetime caring for others, and now it's okay to focus on what makes you happy, healthy, and fulfilled. So, here's to embracing your worth, setting boundaries with love, and living a life filled with joy and dignity. Thank you for spending this time with me, and remember, your voice matters. Until next time, take care and stay wise.